It's just,
What do you mean, you people?
Yeah,
What do you mean, you
what do you
people?
mean? I don't think this is a particularly hot take.
Let's just say the redhead awakened some things in me and move on. Oh, yes! Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mongoolie Show. Today, I've got a very special guest. We're joined by the man, the myth, the meme, Prplestiky, and we're going to go over the flicks that make him tick. Now, I have no say in what his list is. He gets to take that title and interpret it whatever way he wants. We're going to go through 5 to 10 movies or so of the movies that make him, kind of go over why those movies are important to him. So let's get right into it. Prplestiky, they know you as Prplestiky. I know you as Brian. How are you doing, sir?
I'm wonderful, man. I'm doing fantastic, and I'm super excited for this. And I appreciate you having me on.
Excellent. I'm so happy that you joined. Now, this is the second time that I've reached out to you and asked for something, and both times I was met with a absolutely, I'd love to do it, can't wait. So I love your attitude. I love watching your stream. It's just a joy to have you on this program. So as much as you're thanking me for the opportunity, I'm thanking you for joining me. This is going to be a ton of fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Now, we've only done this show once before. We had Cleaning Agent on here. Essentially, I just kind of leave it open to my I was going to say my opponent, my guest, to kind of interpret what that means to them and what makes the movies important. So we're going to allow him to kind of go over it. I'll ask him some questions here and there. But essentially, we were talking earlier. You say there are 9 movies on this list. Do you want to talk about how you broke it down?
Yeah. So I was trying to think of the way I wanted to do this. So I just grabbed a couple of genres. And a couple of heavy hitters: action, animated, sci-fi, horror, things like that. And then I have a greatest of all time that I think is probably, for my money, probably the best movie I've ever watched. So I broke it down like that, and I've narrowed it down to 1 for each category, except for 2 of the categories. I was torn. I had a very hard time choosing just 1. So that's kind of the way I went about it. But a couple of these, I got a 2 for there that I'm kind of torn on. So
nice. You kind of answered the next question I was going to have, which was like, when I gave you this list to you, or when I gave you the option to be on the show, was there one movie that just popped into your brain instantly, like, I have to talk about this? And it sounds like there absolutely was.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna save that one for last, right? Build up the anticipation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the last on the list. Absolutely.
Now, that being said, because you're doing this by genre, this isn't really like a number 9, number 8, number 7, right? This is going to be just like, no, in this genre, this is my favorite.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. I love the way you did that. All right. So let's get right into it. What do you want to talk about first?
So we'll start with action, I guess.
Okay.
So I was born in '88, so a lot of my formative years in movie watching was in the '90s. So starting with action, I was torn on this one. And I have written down both Independence Day and Starship Troopers. Unironically love both of those movies. Independence Day, I think a lot of people would be like, that's a pretty good action movie. Like, I don't know, you'll get a whole lot of pushback for the original Independence Day. Starship Troopers, maybe a little bit more of a meme to people, but I love it, man. That movie blew my mind at the time. It was something special. Yeah. And they're fun. And those are 2 movies that I could watch right now, and I would enjoy them both equally. I think they're like both in their own way, kind of like perfect action movies. And maybe not, I don't know, like I say action movies, maybe not in a traditional sense. Action movies, you might think of like Rambo or Predator or something, but I love them, man. I love them. Independence Day had like that over the top at the time, like blew my mind with the spaceships and it had everything, the comedy, the drama to it. I just an absolute classic that I would happily watch. And then Starship Troopers, man, I'm a sucker. There's so many great moments for that. Just like the bugs, the way they talk about them, and the only good bug's a dead bug.
Yeah. Now, both of these movies have sequels. I have to assume not as big of a fan of any of the follow-ups.
I watched the second Independence Day, and that was a travesty.
Watched it is about the nicest thing you can say about it.
I watched it. I couldn't tell you one thing about it. It was one of those things, like, it went into my eyes and into my brain and just right out immediately. Just horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even like the main character. I think if memory serves, like Will Smith was his dad, and like he's like, yeah, my pop used to fight the aliens. It's just a picture of Will Smith on the
Yeah.
wall or whatever. It's just
I haven't
horrible.
seen the second one, but I heard it was pretty rough. And
No.
yeah, apparently there's one scene where, yeah, just like a random photo of Will Smith. That's like the best they could do. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
No, yeah, it's exactly as bad as you would imagine. And then yeah, I'm pretty sure the Starship Trooper ones, I believe those were all like straight to DVD kind of
Yeah,
things, and there's a
I think so
reason
too.
because they were just horrible too. I mean, they were just none of like the heart, none of like what made either of those movies special show through in the sequels at all. They just took the general idea and they were like, well, it worked one time, maybe we can make it work again. And it
Yeah.
was just, you could tell it was just kind of a half.
There's kind of a magic to the first one that I don't think I honestly, I'm not entirely sure they did on purpose or that you could reproduce. It kind of just flowed so beautifully. And it's a weird one because like you wouldn't necessarily think from the trailers how I'm gonna say how deep it is, but that's not quite the right wording. But like how funny it is, how on the nose it is. Like it does a really good job of being anti-war while also somehow coming across as like pretending like in the movie they're very pro-war, but the actual message of the movie is so anti-war. You know what I mean? Like it's a really interesting dynamic they're able to pull off. And I get why they weren't able to do it multiple times. Like that's a tough tightrope to walk along. But
yeah.
do you
Yeah,
remember watching these for the first time? Like these would like you were 88, Independence Day was 95, I want to say. Like you're 7 when that came out. I'm assuming you didn't watch it in theaters.
I don't remember Starship Troopers. I definitely did watch in theaters. I remember that was 97. I did watch Starship Troopers in theaters. That blew my mind. Independence Day, I can't remember. That might have been we definitely had it on VHS at the time,
Yeah.
but that might have been one of those situations. But yeah, you're right about Starship Troopers. I never read. Apparently, it's based off of a book or a series of books. I never read, but yeah, apparently they're like basically like space like fascist kind of, and that does sort of come across in the like service guarantees citizenship and all that stuff. They're all just like pro. It's a very like martial society. But yeah, man, I just love those movies. I have to ask you, you've obviously seen Starship Troopers. Are you Team Dizzy or Team Carmen? The two leading ladies.
Yep. The redhead. It's been a minute.
Dizzy.
Okay.
Dizzy, yeah.
So I've seen Independence Day a lot. That's one of the ones we had on VHS. And like back in the 90s, as you probably remember, like you didn't have a whole lot of options necessarily. Like we grew up in a small town, right? So like the movies my brother owned, I watched a ton, and that included Independence Day. I've seen Starship Troopers maybe twice. I remember liking it, but it's one of those ones that I keep thinking I have to go back to and just have not yet.
Yeah.
That being said, let's just say the redhead awakened some things in me and move on.
Yeah, the co-ed shower scene. Me as a kid, I was like, okie dokie.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
Oh, we're on this path now. Okay, never going back. Cool.
Love it.
All right. You want to move on to your next one?
Yeah. So we'll go with the next one. I did animated / anime.
Okay.
And I will preface this by saying I'm not that huge into animated movies. I don't have anything against them. It just tends not to be my favorite thing. And anime is something that I've never really been that into. I like certain things. But yeah, just kind of all around, not necessarily my kind of thing. However, one movie that I watched, I don't even remember why I watched it, but I watched and it blew me away. And not only is it in a genre, the animated kind of thing, but it's also like a topic that doesn't necessarily click or appeal to me. And that is Spirited Away. Have you ever watched that?
Absolutely.
That is, Studio Ghibli jam. And they're the the masters of that. Spirited Away is basically like a coming of age tale of like a little girl
on acid.
Yeah, basically. And like you go through the entire thing and you're not even sure if it actually happened or if she just like daydreamed it when she fell asleep like on the car ride with her parents or whatever. And it was just lovely, man. I watched it and I was like, man, I love this movie. This is a fantastic movie. yeah, it's not even like one thing because the story is kind of like a little bit insane. As you said, it's like a on acid. And I don't even know if there's like one thing about it, but it's just like I got done it and I was like, man, this this was lovely. Like I very much enjoyed this. I never thought I'd see like an animated coming of age young girl tale. Like, that's just not something that I would probably like, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love that movie. And the animation, Studio Ghibli is like the animation's second to none. It's like you're watching like it's like a painting in motion kind of thing, man. It's just like it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I love Studio Ghibli. I will say this is one of the ones where I feel like I've probably seen it like 3 times now. My daughters really like it. And like the first time I was kind of blown away by it. And the more I watch it, the more I'm like, I don't understand 99% of what is happening. And it's just like, do I enjoy this? Or is it just really pretty and it just kind of like gets me because of the artwork? If you enjoyed that at all, though, Princess Mononoke was the first Studio Ghibli that I watched and the second anime I ever watched. It's incredible. And it's actually like it's just as beautiful, but it's a story you can really follow. And that might sound lame for people who really like Spirited Away, but it's more grounded, let's say, while still being fantastical and still being gorgeous to watch. So if you're willing to give another shot, I'd say definitely give Princess Mononoke a try.
I actually have watched that. I have seen it, and I
Okay,
did like it. It just maybe I don't think maybe had as much impact on me as Spirited Away. Maybe more likely because that was sort of my first foray into that kind of movie and what that could be and like the
for
art
sure.
style and stuff. So that might have had more impact. But I did enjoy that. And I know their catalog of movies people love. I think I never saw My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay.
Totoro, is that what it is? I
Yep,
think that's another Studio Ghibli.
it
Uh,
is.
yeah. Um,
So that one's really we could go down a rabbit hole now. I really like My Neighbor Totoro, but it is much more simplistic and just kind of a heartwarming story. Like there's not a whole lot of twists or turns or anything to it. It's just kind of like these 2 little girls move out to the woods or move out to this place in the country. And again, it's like, do they actually discover this thing living in the woods, or are they just bored and letting their imaginations run wild? Like it's not 100% clear.
right.
There are some dark theories online. I don't really subscribe to any of that, but it's a good watch. Like maybe when your daughter's a little older, that'd be a good intro for her. Where like Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke, like Princess Mononoke's a little bit gory, and Spirited Away can get a little brutal. Where I think Totoro is a bit more tame.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing chat mention Hal's Moving Castle. I've seen parts of that. I need to sit down and I probably one of these days just need to sit down and just kind of go through their catalog and like really soak it all in and get a good feeling for everything
Yeah,
they have to offer because I did really enjoy those. I think yeah, the
my
storytelling and the artistry that goes into it, man, is really something special.
yeah, my wife bought me a box set. I think it's like one of those Amazon, like not a real box set. You know what I mean? Like somebody like made it fakely in their garage and sold it, but whatever. My wife got me one of those, and then like a week and a half later, they all ended up on Disney. And I'm like, oh well, okay, I guess I'll just watch them over there. But thank you,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate you. So I've seen a bunch of them. There's one that I've never been able to get my hands on, called Grave of the Fireflies, and it's I
Okay.
want to say it's like a World War II story or something like that, but it is supposed to be like devastating, like not for kids, and don't watch it in front of people that you don't want to cry in front of, kind of thing. Like I'm super curious about it, but it's I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Looks like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for whatever that's worth. That's got to be.
It's
Sounds
got
like
to be
people love
something,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Like
it got to be something. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
I've seen Howl's Moving Castle. I like it. Howl's Moving Castle is kind of up there with Spirited Away, where like you're watching it, you're enjoying it, but at the end of it, if you had to explain it to somebody, you'd be like, stuff happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have a solid take? Like, could you walk me through the plot of Spirited Away? Do you think?
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
it's
Okay.
like 0% chance. Like girl falls asleep, parents transform into pigs, possibly. There's little like spirits take over everyone, and she's like getting rid of them for them, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like. I'm pretty sure all the spirits like view her as a monster, if memory serves correct, until she like comes
Well,
around and
she enters the spirit world. So she's freaked out because she's surrounded by spirits, but the spirits are freaked out because there's not supposed to be a living person there.
Yeah.
But then it kind of just spirals.
Yeah. I always remember the I think they're called no faces, just like the little things that are
Oh,
just like dead stare, like little ghost looking things. Yeah.
I'm sure there's supposed to be so many like messages in there too, where like the more he eats, the more monstrous he becomes, the more devastating and whatnot. But it's like, I'm sure you're trying to say something about capitalism, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's something deep here, but it's lost on me.
Yeah, for sure. So is that just like when you think of animation, you say that's not your favorite genre? So is it just that this is your favorite thing in that genre? Like, this really doesn't speak to you specifically or anything. It's just like if you had to pick a favorite animated movie, this would be it. Almost, I hate to say it this way, and I don't mean to be rude, but almost like default, more so than like, no, this one jumped to the top of my list.
No, I mean I've seen. No, I would say this has this one is like, I don't know. I remember, I guess when I was picking this, I kind of remember the like emotion that was invoked in me as I was watching it and when I finished it. Where like it was one of those things where I watched it, I was like, you know what, maybe I am into this kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I've seen other animated stuff. I grew up Disney, Aladdin and all that. But like, I don't know, like that was fine. Those were all fine movies. I'm sure I enjoyed that and The Lion King as a kid and everything. But I guess like as an adult, I had like assumed that I was like, this just doesn't really do it for me anymore.
Sure.
And I saw Spirited Away, and I was like, oh, you know what? Like that, in conjunction with it being a genre that I didn't think I was really that into in my adult years, my older years, combined with it being like a story that about a girl, a character that I didn't think would resonate with me, baseline, and still enjoying it as much as I did. I think that's why I made it.
Nice.
A close second would probably be Into the Spider-Verse. I thought Into the Spider-Verse was fantastic. I mean, that's probably a close second for me. That was just something, man. The artistry is, I guess, it's the only word I can come up with that went into that, and it's just incredible.
Into the Spider-Verse is darn near a perfect movie for me. Like that's one that like I could just watch it anytime with my kids, without my kids. Like it really doesn't matter. That one just hits on all levels. All right, moving on to your I guess third category.
Yeah. So I went with sci-fi for this one.
Which is weird because your action movies are very sci-fi.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, and those almost could go under sci-fi, but this is more like, I don't know. This still has action, but I don't know. I view this as my favorite sci-fi movie, and yeah, there's definitely some crossover. But I went with Serenity. Have you ever watched Serenity?
Is Serenity the sequel to Firefly?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I had never watched Firefly. That is a cult.
Oh, okay.
I have sense, and it's awesome. But my entry point into it was Serenity.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I love Serenity. I love the like kind of the lore, and it's like this pirate, like swashbuckling, like space crew. And it's just, it's awesome, dude. And it's got like this awesome, like underlying, kind of mystery as to like, oh, we're literally just space pirates basically, but we uncover this like massive government cover up and like what happened to this planet. Why does this like super weird chick that we picked up, I think it's like the doctor's sister or whatever, keeps saying Miranda, or like she gets whatever, like something comes on, she hears like a frequency at a bar or something, and she just snaps from like this timid girl into like this absolute killing machine, and like nobody knows why. It's just it's a cool movie, man. I love it. I love like the whole vibe. It's like comedy. It's a great movie. And that made me, I was like, all right, I need to learn more about this. I was telling a buddy, I was like, oh, you got to watch Serenity. It was awesome. Subliminal message. Yeah. And they were like, oh, would you ever watch Firefly? And I was like, no, I'm not familiar. And I went back and watched it. And I understand. It's a shame that never got to go anywhere, and it, got canned for whatever reason. But
So I started watching Firefly when it came out on DVD. My cousin gave it to my parents because apparently he doesn't know my parents at all. And I was like, "You'll really like this." And they like looked at the front cover and be like, "No, we wouldn't. Like this is not our genre at all." So they gave it to me and I checked it out and it was so instantly captivating.
Yeah.
Like for being a TV budget, and a TV budget in 2002 maybe is very different from a TV budget today. There's no Game of Thrones back then. So like they did the best they could with what they had, and it was still very compelling. Really liked all the characters on there. Really liked a lot of the actors on there. And then when it got canceled after the one season, they're like, "Oh, this DVD is all we get. Like this one season. Like that's really unfortunate." And I started hearing rumblings about the movie, and like I wasn't like petitioning for it online or anything, but I was kind of like, "Oh, that's cool. Like I'll check that out when it comes out." Checked out the movie. Really enjoyed the movie. You might be the first person I've heard of though who went the opposite way. Like watched the movie first and then fell into the TV show. So did you know that it was a series when you watched the movie?
No, I missed that entirely. No. I went in totally blind and just fell in love with the movie, and then found the TV show from there. But yeah, I just love the movie. Like the whole cast I thought was perfect. Everyone played like the perfect role. Nathan Fillion is the captain. He's just like could not care less. He's like the pirate with the heart of gold kind of thing, where like he acts like he doesn't care about anything, but he's actually a really good guy at heart. Huge crush on I think her name was like Kaylee or something, the little brunette
engineering girl.
Yeah, the little mechanic girl. I was like, oh, she's adorable.
Right.
Yeah. I have a big crush on Kaylee. But yeah, no, I thought it was super cool. And the assassin that they send after him to like that's there to like shut down, everyone thinks that, in a conflict like that, everyone thinks they're on the right side of things. Right. So he's going there because he thinks they're trying to disrupt, whatever government they have, and that they're terrorists or whatever. And eventually has a kind of a turn of fate when they're exposed to actually what occurred on that planet, Miranda, when they find out like what the government did, like how the test went wrong, and like what that government's actually all about. And it's just awesome. And I think the combination of it being like very much like a Western kind of pirate movie in space, but like in a sci-fi setting, I think was just awesome.
So I feel like, and it's been a while, so I could be wrong, and somebody can correct me if I am. You hear about is it the Reavers or the Ravagers? I want to say it's the Reavers.
Reavers.
Yeah, you hear about them quite a bit, but they're always kind of like this threat that's over there. And this is the first time where you I guess you kind of go to their home planet, or at least where they like originated from, and you can see them, and they are terrifying. And that was so cool because like, from having seen the show and just kind of hearing about them, like the anticipation had built up on them so strongly that when you actually get to that and they live up to the hype, you're just like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And like the fight scene at the end where there are spoilers for 14, 17-year-old movie, they're all just dying, unfortunately, because the Reavers are so overpowered. Like even, I want to say her name is Summer, who is this like crazy assassin, is barely holding her own against this like essentially a zombie horde, but like space zombies. I don't know. It was
there's just like
a cool movie
driven by madness. It's just like rage. It's like a rage kind of, and it was such a cool premise too with the Reavers, where it's like, I forget, it was like 95% of the population, whatever, they were trying to, if memory serves, they were trying to develop a drug or airborne something or whatever that would calm a population, because they were trying to like cull rebellions, and they wanted everyone to be like compliant, and it was just like the compliance drug or whatever. Got the mixture wrong, I guess. Kills off like 95% of the population. They all just like give up. They're going through that planet and like looking in the windows, and everyone's just like keeled over at their desks, like just going about. They just gave up and died basically. But then like 5% of the population had the exact reverse effect on, and they just became like these bloodthirsty monsters. And like that, they find a hologram at one point where like a ship's getting overrun by the Reavers, and like the girl's talking to the hologram. She's like, it like built up so much tension. She's like, oh, they're, I have to tell you what's going on. Yeah, you hear them like clawing at the doors and stuff. She's like, they're in here. Fuck, just takes that way out, as opposed to, and you're just like, man, these things are nasty.
You are seriously talking me into wanting to watch this whole series again. Like it's been a minute, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good show. And The movie was a nice button on top. There's a lot of not cliffhangers, a lot of loose threads that never really get addressed, but the movie did a pretty good job of putting a bow on it for what they had, right?
Yeah.
It was unfortunate. If the movie had done well, maybe they would have got another one, but c'est la vie.
Yeah.
Hiding from Real Life has a good point. Yeah, it's like 28 Days Later meets Star Trek. Like,
Yeah.
it's got the sci-fi of that, but the zombies of this 28 Days Later, the rage zombies, as it were.
Yep.
Now, I apologize if you did mention this, and I didn't catch it. Because you saw this without knowing that it was a series or whatnot, like, was it recommended to you? Did you just see it at a video store? Was it just on Facebook? Like, how did you actually discover this one? And I do apologize again if you did mention
No, I did not. No, I was actually, my brother is about 7 years older than I am. So he was our parents were out of town for something. And he was watching me, and it was like one of those things where, like, you know, we're hanging out, whatever. And I think we just like ordered it on demand or whatever. I think that's all it was. I just sat there watching with my brother. I don't think he had ever seen it. He was like, just like, we'll check it out. And I thought it was just going to be this throwaway thing. And like, I was hooked, man. I was like, this is awesome. And I think it's so good. And the movie very much I'm sure I would have benefited in a lot of ways having had the background of the show. For sure. But even as its own product without any background at all, I was like, this is an awesome standalone movie. I very much enjoyed it.
Nice. Did your brother have the same reaction?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
All right. You want to get to the next one?
Absolutely.
All right. So I love horror movies. I'm a sucker. I love good horror movies. I love bad horror movies. One of my favorite things is like when I have nothing else going on, playing a game on the Switch or playing some Marvel Strike Force or something. I love throwing on a bad horror movie in the background. I'm here for it. I enjoy horror movies. As far as my favorite of all time, I was kind of torn on those. Someone actually mentioned earlier 28 Days Later, and had I thought about it, that might actually have made this list. That is like right up there. That is an incredible movie. But I have a tie between Dawn of the Dead, the remake.
Okay.
Which I want to think, God, maybe 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. I might be misremembering that, but early 2000s, I think. Dawn of the Dead remake, and more recently in the last few years, a movie called It Follows.
Oh, yes. That is a great choice.
Dude, all right. So let's start with Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Dawn of the Dead, the remake, has what I consider to be one of the coolest, most badass, discomforting intros to a movie, openings to a movie that I've possibly ever seen. Like, she gets off her shift and like there's a whole, like, what you're getting into with Dawn of the Dead. There's going to be zombies, right?
It's in the title.
Yeah, but like, there's like that intro and she's like coming off her shift and there's like someone laying on a stretcher and she's talking to the ambulance people and like, you're like, is that guy going to pop up right there? But like, no, everything's cool. She heads home. She meets with the fiance. They do whatever. Says hi to the little, she's walking to the house, says hi to the little girl skating in the front yard or out in the street there, goes in. And then middle of the night, they get woken up because that little girl's just standing in the doorway of their bedroom. And the husband gets up. He's like, whatever her name is. He's like, is everything okay? You good? And it's just like, as the camera gets closer, she goes from the shadows into the light a little bit. And you can see like things are not good. And he's like, I got you, baby. Like goes to pick her, and she just goes right for the jugular. And within like seconds, the husband turns, the wife's freaking out, like gets in the bathroom. He's coming through, and they're just like, I love the zombie ones where they're just like, zombies were scary in like the 70s when the original like Night of the Living Dead came out. Cause like, I guess, no one had really seen anything like that. And like a slow moving, like lumbering evil coming at you. But like in the modern day, like that, we've seen enough of that I think is kind of worn off for a lot of people. But like, dude, the fast, like where they're almost more like animals, they're predators than they are like shambling undead, right? She gets out the window, man, and that scene where she's just like booking it for the car, and you just see the chaos in the neighborhood around her. And it's just like all of this happened over the course of like 7 hours. Right, where like she's inside asleep and you go outside, there's just houses on fire, people are running down the street. that opening to that movie, man, is just so cool. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Ving Rhames
So
is awesome.
one, I was trying to think because like as you were describing the opening, it's like I don't remember. Like I remember the little girl, and like I want to say she like launched herself at the dad. So it's been a minute. I've only seen this one once. But I remember how disturbing that scene was of just like, oh, we're starting off with the little kid. Like
Yeah.
nobody is safe in this world. This is going to be dark, right? So I'd forgotten the nurse part and her getting off work and whatnot, but like the time frame. I just remember I thought they woke up in the morning and like this little girl's just like, let's go. And it's just like it gets like you hit the ground running with that movie, right? There's no like half-hour build up or what's gonna happen next. It's like, no. This is the zombie apocalypse. Let's get right into it. We were actually talking about zombies somewhat recently, I think with the other Brian, Run 7. And like in a world where people know what zombies are, so like in our reality right now, I don't think that like Night of the Living Dead zombies are a threat. You know what I mean? Like I think it'd be much more like Shaun of the Dead, where you're all just kind of like, whatever, have to pass 3 dead people on my way to work. Like they're just shambling around. Like I don't want to out you. You said earlier you've got a gun case right behind you. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people in North America who are
We're
well
ready
armed. Where it's like if you know what zombies are, they're not that scary.
Yeah.
Which is why most of the time they take place in a universe where they've never heard of zombies, and they call them like walkers or the dead or something else. But then you get a movie like 28 Days Later, like this one, like World War Z, where like the zombies are so fast. World War Z, they work together almost like an ant colony to get over like obstacles and stuff. And you're just like, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do to keep my family alive in this situation. We're toast. Like,
it's an element of like the horror to it that I think works very well for like a modern audience. But yeah, it's just like the animalistic, like they just don't stop, right? They never stop, and I think that was a cool part. But it's just like it's a fun movie. But that opening, for sure, like it's one of those movies, man, that I'll throw on anytime. Like I'll throw on Dawn of the Dead. I'll have a good time watching it. Like I can enjoy it as many times as I've seen it. I can still enjoy it.
I remember there's definitely parts that I really enjoyed and parts that I thought were really, really cool. But I feel like, because spoilers again, at the end they get on a boat, take off, like the 1 or 2 of them that survive, get to an island, and then get attacked during the end credits in the island. It was just like this, nobody survives. Like it depressed me so much that like depressing. No, there's no hope. There's no hope. Like that's not the point of this movie.
Yeah.
Cool movie, but I just like that is my takeaway is just like, oh, we all die.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So my other one is a more modern horror movie, and that's It Follows. It Follows is I think it's like a horror masterpiece, man. Like a modern horror masterpiece for me. And it's such like a simple concept, but what it lends itself in like the cinematography of it. And so, all right. So for anyone that has never seen this,
you're going to have to explain this one. This is such a little indie movie that I doubt many people know what you're talking about. But I've seen it and I loved it. So
we're good with spoilers, right? Like I'm going to assume
if it's not like this summer, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it opens up with a girl going on a date or whatever. And essentially gets like, I guess not really date raped. No, it's consensual. It's consensual. Yeah, it's consensual. But then he like knocks her out and she wakes up. She's tied to a chair. And the guy is like standing there talking to her. She's obviously freaking out. Like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, all right, you need to listen to me. He's like, I'm so sorry that I did this to you, but there's going to be something is coming. It follows the chain of anyone that you have sex with. He's like, someone did it to me. The only way that he's like, you have to go and do it. You have to have sex with somebody else. You have to, I mean, it's like,
you have to pass on this curse.
You have to it's like a sexually transmitted demon. Like, I mean, it's basically what the movie is.
It is basically a sexually transmitted disease is like the undertone of what the movie is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess you don't really get away from it by giving it to somebody else, but other than that.
Yeah. But but yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And he's like, it could look like anyone. It could be someone that you've never met before. It could appear like someone that you love. It's going to try to get close to you, this and that. And basically it's just always walking towards the target.
Yeah.
It's always coming no matter what, no matter where you go in the world, it can only ever walk to you, but it's going to get to you eventually. And the only way to buy yourself time is to sleep with somebody else because now it's going to go for them. And the beauty of it is, as the movie is going, it sets up this, it conditions you where you're paying attention to the scene, but you're also paying attention to who's acting weird or doing what in the background of that scene. And you're like, is this the thing coming? Like, am I watching the thing approach her right now?
Yep.
Or is this someone that's literally just walking through that lawn because they're heading to their house?
Yeah.
And it's like,
and they do a good job. Like, there's some fake outs for that too. Where
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, it's almost on them. And it's just some kid who couldn't care less about them. You're like,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it has you watch, like, it has you on your toes the entire time of like, is this thing there right now? Am I watching this character walk up? Is this it coming for her right now? Yeah. Or is it just some random person? Because you never know the form that it takes. Yeah. I think it's fantastic, man. I think it's a great movie.
There's some oddly disturbing imagery in it too, right? Like, it's not gory per se, but like at one point they run out of the house and they're driving away really quickly and they look back and there's just like an old naked woman standing on their roof or something. Like, it got that close to them, but couldn't quite get there. And you're just like, oh, like, it's just disturbing. And she's the only one that can see it. So all of her friends are just trusting her. Yes. Well, eventually, at first they just think she's crazy, but eventually they're trusting her. This is such a low budget indie film. Like, if you told me this was made by people in college as an art project, I would 100% believe you. But it's so well done. You buy the fear. As you're saying, like, the background imagery just gets you where you're just like, you're constantly scanning the background for like, is that the person? Is that them right there? Like, what is going on? What a great choice. I'm so glad you brought this one, because it's one of the ones where, like, I wouldn't have talked about it for any other reason, but I'm so glad that we get to now.
Yeah. It blew me away. And yeah, one of the things too was the budget, because to your point, it's like, it's obvious they did this on a shoestring budget, but like, the cinematography's there, like, everything's there. It's filmed so well, but like, it's one of those things where like, you don't need special. I don't know that there might not be a single special effect in that movie that it's all just,
the pool scene would have been interesting to do, where like the water and everything is moving, but like, I don't like, maybe not special effects.
Oh,
like
yeah,
CG.
That's right.
But,
yeah,
like,
in the pool,
you have to get
where they're all
doing...
watching it happen, and they're like, "Oh, this is actually real." Yeah.
They're, because they could, to that point, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, like, I can't see it," and then they go to a big swimming pool, like a high school swimming pool or something.
Right. Yep.
She hides in the middle, and then all of a sudden the water starts moving as this thing is moving towards her. They're like, "Oh, okay."
And she's freaking out. They think she's messing around or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. It's an awesome movie, man. It's they did a great job with it.
If you like horror movies and you like indie movies, this is a huge recommendation from apparently both of us. But don't go into this expecting like super high caliber. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, the acting is all really good. Like, everything you get is decent. It just is like, they made this for $85. You know what I mean? Like, there's no big names in this. There's nothing big like that, but it's such a good one.
Yeah.
What a great choice. All right. I like that. Not that I didn't like your other choices, just,
Oh, yeah.
Also, while, like, this part I can edit out, I love the way you're building up so well to everything. You're not just like, all right, number 2 is The Shining. You're like, okay, the number 2 is this, and I saw it at this time, and I did this. Like, well played, sir. Well played.
Thank
it's
you.
like you've done this before.
I'm a showman, if nothing else. I'm all about the pageantry. So
love it. A lot of people are agreeing with you with horror movies. I haven't seen anybody who truly knows what this one is. Green Tuckin's saying this is the one that ends in the cabin in the snow. I don't think that's accurate. I think it ends with them just walking down the street, like something super simplistic.
Yeah, I don't remember how they actually get rid of it, or they might not have.
She passes it on. Well, I mean, if we're really spoiling the movie, she passes it on to someone. That person dies horrendously, and I think that's when they start really believing her, because the guy's just like, whatever, I'll have sex with you, absolutely.
Oh, that's like her neighbor or whatever, and they like walk into the room because they're keeping an eye on it or whatever. They walk in, the thing's just like sucking the life force out of them or whatever.
Yeah. So they pass it on to him, and then she's got this like simp who is like, no, I'll keep you safe, don't you worry. So she has sex with him, and then he goes and finds a hooker, and he's like, well, if you want to get away from this, let's just give it to somebody who's going to give it to everybody. And then like the movie ends, they're just like walking down the street, and somebody is walking behind them, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Where you're just like, is that it following them right now? Like, did it already kill all those people and catch up to you?
Yeah.
Or is that just some random person walking down the street and just is like
Yeah.
an androgynous ending? That's not the right word. Like an ending where you don't entirely know what's happening
Ambiguous.
there.
Yeah.
Ambiguous ending. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's funny. I forgot about the friend that was just like, he's like, yeah, no, I'll bang
protect you, baby.
He's like, I'll bang you and get that demon. That's cool. He's like, just the ultimate.
I'll have sex with you, and then I'll have guilt-free sex with a hooker. This is a good day for me.
He's like, this is awesome. He's like, I would totally die
be a hero for doing it. Fuck yeah, sign me up, babe.
Yeah. I'm like, damn, man. That's a choice.
Yep. Amazing. All right, moving away from horror, what is your next category?
All right, so next one I went with kind of a I put down crime/drama, kind of a whodunit sort of thing. And this is generally a genre that I don't dislike, but it's not necessarily my go-to. But this is a movie that has one of the, it's probably a bit hyperbole to say one of the greatest like twists of any movie. It might be the greatest twist of any movie that I've ever seen in my life. And the entire lead up to it is awesome. The cast is incredible. It's funny. And that's The Usual Suspects.
There it is. Okay.
The Usual Suspects, man, is incredible. It's incredible. And if anyone hanging out with us here or on YouTube has never seen it, I don't want to spoil anything because it's that good to me. Kevin Spacey is incredible. It's got Stephen Baldwin. Benicio del Toro is absolutely hilarious.
Yep.
In that, and it just has one of the greatest. It's this ragtag, almost like Ocean's 11 style kind of like criminal thing where just like random guys working together, trying to do a job, trying to make money, kind of thing. And this entire time, there's this like underlying boogeyman who's kind of like pulling the strings on everything that everyone talks about. And he's very much like the boogeyman that when they're talking to other criminals, and that's Kaiser Soze. Right. So it's like, oh, this guy's associated with Kaiser Soze. And they're telling each other like these like tall tales. It's like, oh, so-and-so went back on a deal with Kaiser Soze and he went and did this and that to their family. And he
don't mess with Kaiser Soze.
Yeah. He's like, oh, he did a job for the Russian mafia or whatever. And, they killed his wife and his daughter. And so like he went and like killed every person they've ever known, and like it was like, and he's like the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
And it's like this entire thing, and they're interviewing Kevin Spacey, his character in it, who's disabled guy, I guess, like walks with a limp, he's not all there mentally, kind of thing.
Bit of a simple guy, bit of a cripple.
Yeah. And he's explaining the story to the cops, and it's just. You
want so badly to spoil
God,
this
movie.
I want to tell you.
So...
It's 25 years old.
All right.
Okay, here. I'll give you carte blanche. 2 weeks ago, I had my brother on. We did our top 5 twist endings to movies, and I spoiled the shit out of this then.
All right.
So, like, we just talked about this. I just rewatched it. Carte blanche, my friend. Go for it.
Here we go. He's sitting there in the detective's office. This is Kevin Spacey. I forget his name in the movie. It's like
Verbal Kent.
Verbal Kent. Thank you. Verbal Kent. And he's like, again, like he's a simpleton. Everyone thinks he's an idiot. And he's sitting there and he's telling them, the detectives, about what went on. And like, he would just chime in with these random things. They think he's an idiot, right? Yeah. He's like, oh, you're drinking coffee. I've had good coffee. I used to be, collect coffee beans in Skokie, Illinois or whatever. And they're just like talking to him. He's weaving them the story. And then like, finally at the end of it, he's like, all right, am I free to go? And they're just like, yeah, get out of here, whatever. And he starts walking out, and the cop's sitting there and he's drinking his coffee. And he turns around to where Verbal is looking at like the board, the post-it board behind him, the bulletin board behind him. And he's drinking his coffee and he's just like looking at the things that are on the bulletin board. And you see it all, right? The names of things, locations of things, just from like stuff that Kevin Spacey's character was looking at as he's telling them the story. And he looks at his coffee cup and like looks at the bottom every time he goes to take a sip or whatever. It's like the bottom of it's like made in Skokie, Illinois or whatever. And as he's having this realization, Kevin Spacey's walking outside. You see him like he's walking with the limp. He's going. And as he's going, like slowly the leg starts to straighten out. The hand that he had like twisted up, pulls out a lighter, lights a cigarette. He shakes, and all of a sudden it like cuts to him, and he's just like, "This is the guy. Yeah. This is the guy." He gets in the limo with the butler, Mr. Kobayashi. Yeah. Mr. Kobayashi, the guy that was like, the front man for Kaiser Soze the entire time through the entire story. The mouthpiece. And that's the butler for him. And he gets in there and just drives away. And it's just like that ending, man, that twist and the way he portrays himself and carries himself as Verbal. And then the transition into Kaiser Soze. And then you realize at the end of it that maybe some of the things that they said about Kaiser Soze, what he did and didn't do, maybe some of those are a tall tale, but he's just as badass. He's just as dangerous. He's just as smart as everyone thinks he is. And it's just, it's a masterclass, man. And that, like, I know it's I'm a kind of a separate the art from the artist kind of guy. Like I have no, Kevin Spacey is probably
Kevin Spacey and Bryan Singer are both pretty problematic. So it's like
probably not the coolest dude in the world, but like if you had to ask me like who's your favorite actor of all time, it probably is Kevin Spacey, like just based on the acting chops. And that for me probably
he had a run there, like the late 90s to early 2000s. Like if there was a great performance, there's a good chance it was him.
Yeah.
Like so many good movies.
Yeah. Spacey is a when it comes to movies, acting and everything, just an absolute master of his craft, man. Yeah. He really is. Yeah.
So as I said, we did the top 5 twist endings. So I rewatched this movie somewhat recently. Well, very recently, within the last month. I loved this movie as a teenager when I first started watching it. Watched it a lot. Really enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much the most recent time, and I was trying to figure out why that might be. I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know your thoughts on this. Other than the police lineup, because the police knew about that because it happened at the police station. And I guess the fact that like everybody on the boat died, like everything in that movie is 100% or could be 100% fictional, right? Like it's literally like, why does he even get arrested? Like if he's this badass, like why didn't he just assassinate the people and leave? Like why does he wait around until the police get there to arrest him? I get that he's got immunity for some reason, like whatever the immunity is that like makes him bulletproof. Like is it entirely just to like wave it in front of the cops, like look how smart I am? And it's like, so did any of this happen? Like, I don't know. It's like it's still a super cool movie. I'm not taking anything away from it, but it's like some small part of me wants to know if any of that was real. Like it might have entirely been a small tale.
It just like it almost seems like it was like just a game. He was so far beyond them that it was just a game for him. It was just it was him putting the icing on the cake. Like he did it because he could, kind of thing. And because he was so far ahead of them. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool movie. And like this was kind of before twists, like because there was a while there after Sixth Sense where twist endings were almost expected. Like you were just like, you'd watch a movie like, okay, what's the twist going to be to this one? And this took place before that, thankfully, for the benefit of this movie. So you could just watch it and just be like, this is a cool movie. And then you get to the twist and be like, oh, this is a totally different movie than I thought I was watching. I have to watch it again right now to see what was going on and if I can pick up on some of the clues or.
Yeah, that's the thing about it is that even without that, it's still a good movie. Like it's an interesting crime movie, kind of drama thing, whatever, on its own without the ending. And then that ending comes and it just elevates it. It just takes it to another level. You're just like, oh, dude, that's so good. That's a classic for me.
As you were doing that massive buildup for this one, I was like, okay, is it this? No, it's this. And then you're like, and it's funny. I'm like, and it's funny? Okay? Now you really got me confused, but no, that's a good choice.
The humor for me, a lot of that it has to be Benicio del Toro. Like his mannerisms, the way
his crazy accent.
He's like, I'll flip you. They're like, what? He's like, I'll flip you for real. Like,
yeah.
He's so good, dude. He's so good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I'm sure you know this. This is like the most well-known movie trivia, but the lineup scene where they're all just joking and being silly. Apparently that was on set. They actually were just joking. Like they got the giggles and they could not
Yeah,
get rid of it. And Bryan Singer was pissed off at them. Like, guys, this is a serious scene. Do it right. And they just couldn't stop laughing at each other. They're just like trying to make each other break. So
yeah,
they ended it for the day. They're just like, whatever, just get out of here. We'll try again tomorrow. Came back tomorrow, recorded the scene properly, and ended up being like, nah, you know what? The joking scene where they're just laughing at the cops was actually better, and that's the one that made it into the final cut.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
for the betterment, like I think it really does show you like who the characters are. Where they're just like, we don't take you seriously.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
are
They're just
jokesters.
career criminals. They're just like we've done this so
Yeah,
many times. Yeah.
absolutely. Let's move on to I see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're at 7. So you've only got 2 left. Is that accurate?
I have 2 left. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are they of the same category or do they switch it up?
They are not. I have comedy and I have probably what I consider to be, at least from what I've watched, probably greatest movie of all time. And also, can I throw in one honorable mention
100%.
At the end, just an honorable mention.
Sure.
All right.
All right. All right. So let's move into your comedy. What do you got?
All right. So comedy. This is a movie that I know it's been said many times, and I think is 100% accurate. Could never be made in the modern day.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it could exist. But I think as a in the modern, mentality and right and wrong and what's proper and what's not, what's a line too far. But at its time was just a masterpiece. I could watch this so many times and still laugh. And yes, I see it in chat there. Tropic Thunder.
Okay.
Tropic Thunder is so good. It's so good. I love it. Everything about it. I'm not the biggest Jack Black fan in the world. Jack Black as the dude that's like hooked on heroin the entire time, who like starts going through withdrawal, and like just amazing, where he's just like, oh, I just need my jelly beans or whatever. Ben Stiller getting abducted and like basically getting brainwashed by that, like wherever they are, Colombia, the Colombian gang that has them. Playing
Simple Jack,
playing the mentally retarded guy, and in this movie, he's like, that's what he's known for now. Like, his movies are falling off. They all think they're on the set of a movie. He gets to that village, he gets abducted, and they all recognize him as like Simple Jack, which is like the movie where like
his biggest flop.
He's like an absolute joke. He's like, oh, we love Simple Jack here. he's like, oh, it's the only movie we own. He's like, oh, you have it on VHS, okay? And they make him do the Simple Jack stuff. Robert Downey Jr. in blackface. It's just like, who could pull this off? Like, and I don't know a single. I'm sure it exists. I don't know a single person that looks at that movie and is just like, I can't believe this was. I'm sure they exist.
I want to say he was nominated for an Oscar for that role, which is mind-boggling.
I think he should have been, man. He crushed. Absolutely, he does the method acting and the entire. I mean, like the other guy that's there, the rapper, whoever it is, he just like he uses the N-word one time and he just embraces them. And he's like, for 300 years, that word has kept our people down. And he's just like, what the fuck? It's just,
what do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people?
It's so good, dude. Everyone absolutely crushes it. McConaughey, or he refers to what's his Tugger Nuts or whatever. He's like, oh, it's about that TiVo. You didn't get the TiVo deal or whatever. He shows up at the end of the movie and throws the TiVo up, and it intercepts like an RPG rocket. Like the helicopter gets away. Tom Cruise as like his agent, whatever he does, the agent or whatever, where they call him and like offer them money. He's giving them the deal for the hostage negotiations or whatever, and he just tells him to go F himself. It's
such a good cameo for him because it's so out of character. You're just like, I've never seen him like bald in a fat suit doing. Oh man,
it's just I absolutely love it, man. Everyone, it's just like
So is this one that you watched like in the theater, like relatively when it first came out? Like I came to this one super late. Like I watched this maybe like 2 years ago for the first time.
I don't remember offhand if it was a theater view for me, but it was right around when it came out. Yeah, I watched this for sure very early on. And I think it's hilarious, man. It's such a fun and funny movie. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's all these people. Like I think of Robert Downey Jr. and I don't necessarily think comedy, man, but like he absolutely crushed it. Matthew McConaughey crushed it on the comedy side of it. Tom Cruise crushed it. Like they just had these perfect roles of just these over the top Hollywood douchebags that are just all about the money. And it's just like it's such a funny satire of that in like a bizarre circumstance, right?
I think in a certain way it might be funnier or might have done so well because these are like straight-faced actors who are doing funny roles, as opposed to if you just got like Owen Wilson, Jim Carrey, Ben Stiller, and just have everybody try to like one up each other. You know what I mean? Like that might just get too ridiculous, but it stays somewhat grounded, even though it is entirely ridiculous, because you're watching these like straight actors. And like none of them are, well, okay, Tom Cruise, I guess, but like most of them aren't playing it for comedy, right? Like Robert Downey Jr. is playing a serious role, but it's just so freaking ridiculous that you can't help but laugh at him / with him.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's
you're
so
right though.
good,
Like I can't imagine this one getting made in 2024.
No. And like the opening or whatever, where they like land in the helicopter in the jungle and they take a couple of steps and one of the dudes just explodes on a landmine, and they're just like, oh man, these special effects are really something. He just evaporates into a mist. He's just like, oh really? They really went all out with the special effects, huh? Like oh man, I just love it, man. It's such an absurd movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good choice for sure. Yeah, I mean, are you ready to like we're an hour and a half in? You get to move on to your
yeah.
So this is the one. Now we started at the very very beginning. This is like the one that came to your mind right away, right? Like this is when I brought up this list. You're like, oh, that's going to be on there. So I'm not going to do the build up because you're freaking killing it at that. But
all right. So last but not least, and I'm gonna tack on an honorable mention, but last but not least is what I consider for me probably my favorite movie of all time. And
Citizen Kane.
Yeah. And it's again a lot of I think a lot of these make my list because a lot of them I just outright love and they are up my alley. But then like the other half of these are movies that aren't even necessarily like genres or things that would normally be that into, but are just done so well that they just elevate themselves beyond that and just become something really special for me. And this is a movie that just has it all, man. It has the acting, it has the dialogue, it has the build up, just mastercraft storytelling. And I don't think this is a particularly hot take, but I got to give it to the Shawshank Redemption. I think the Shawshank Redemption is for me, like as close to a perfect movie as you can get. It's just, it's awesome. It's just like, it's so well written. It's such a fantastic progression of story. The characters are just, I love it. I don't know. It's just, it's probably, in my opinion,
it is damn close to a perfect movie. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think most people would agree with that. Even if it's not on their personal top 10, it's hard to find things to nitpick or be like, no, I didn't like it because of X. Like, no, it's just so incredibly watchable, so incredibly rewatchable. This is a great choice.
It's great. Yeah, Tim Robbins just crushes it. Andy Dufresne, and then you got Morgan Freeman as Red. And like the entire story, like how Andy, he's like the smartest guy in the prison, right? He's like, I think he's like a banker or something, but he's like helping the prisoners out with like their legal issues. And then he gets into like help. I think he's helping the warden to like hide like money laundering money laundering stuff. The entire time he's slowly digging this trench out of his cell. He just like, he builds up this repertoire in prison is like, and there's a period of time where like this gang is messing with him. And then he like helps some dude out to like avoid some tax or some like legal issue that he's dealing with his family. And that guy goes and like beats the crap out of like the leader of the gang that like assaulted him or whatever, finally gets out, leaves all that money and a note for Red, who when Red finally
Come
gets,
find me here when you're ready.
come find me, and then they make their way off to Mexico. It's just like it's like a perfect movie, man. Like I think it's fantastic, man. It's just like an absolute masterclass. The acting, the writing, the storytelling of it all. It's great.
This is one. This is like the number one like TBS movie. I don't know if TBS even still exists, but I'm assuming most people know what I'm talking about when I say that. Where like, if this is just on a Saturday afternoon, you're like, oh, I guess that's what I'm doing for the next hour and a half. Like, my day was just decided for me.
Yeah.
And you can pick this movie up for any amount of time, any part of the movie, and be like deep and into it and thoroughly entertained. I was talking to this made Brian's Run Seven's. I realize I can't really say that, doesn't work. Run Seven's top. I want to say it's top like 10, but like maybe not quite top 5, but it was really high up there. And I was talking to him, and I'm like, I think I've seen this movie all the way through, beginning to end, one time, but I've seen every scene of this movie a dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
But just like out of order or just like random clippets. But like to actually like put the DVD in the box, watch it from beginning to end, I think I've only done that once. But like I could quote huge parts of this movie to you because I've just seen chunks of it so often.
Yeah. It's great, man. It's just one of those ones. I feel like this is one that my wife has never watched. I really need to.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I need to get on that. I feel like I've brought it up in the past, and she's like, I've never seen that. I feel like I need to get her to watch that. I think she'd really enjoy it. But yeah, like I'm not even into that, into the prison movie, like that kind of setting. It doesn't necessarily do it for me, but I just like it all comes together into this perfect package, man. They absolutely phenomenal movie.
One of Stephen King's best adaptations, and it's taken from like a short story. It's not even a very long thing. It's like 60 pages or something, and they adapted it from that and like pretty much made this perfect film. Like I can't even think of anything that'd be like, I don't really like that. Like, this isn't good. You could improve that. Like, no, like every person on every level is just killing it for 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
Great choice.
Masterpiece.
Now, you said you had an honorable mention for us?
Yeah. So my honorable mention is a guilty pleasure of mine. It's another Tim Robbins film.
Uh-oh.
And I love Tim Robbins.
Okay.
I think Tim Robbins is an excellent actor. And this is one that's just so absurd and funny and weird, and like ends up being this like, it starts out as this like quirky kind of like industrial thing, capitalism, how to get ahead, and ends with this like bizarre story of like good versus evil, and I'm not even totally sure why or how that even happens. And it's the underlying comedy of it all, where he's like, he knows he has a great idea and he just needs the right person to see it. And that is the Hudsucker Proxy. I love the Hudsucker Proxy. Oh,
have you never heard of the Hudsucker Proxy?
Hudsucker Proxy. Yeah. You should go watch it. I'm not saying it's like one of the greatest movies. I love.
You kind of are, actually. That's kind of the definition of what we're doing right now.
But it's man, it was like I have to mention it somewhere on the list because it's so like obscure. It's 1994. It's the Coen brothers.
Okay, that is a lot.
Yeah. I'm looking at the IMDb right now. Tim Robbins, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Paul Newman. And he's just like this idiot. He's just like kind of an idiot, but like a lovable idiot that like gets a job at the mailroom in this like major company. And he's like, I just have this great idea. He's like, if I could just talk to like the person in charge, he's like, I'd love to show them what I got because I think this is going to be a huge hit. And it's just like, I won't spoil anything because you haven't seen it. That's part of the gold. But it's just, he holds up this piece of paper and it's just a circle drawn in a pencil. And he just holds it up and it's just a circle. And he's like, it's for kids. It's for kids.
I looked it up and just, it looks like the box art. Is it a hula hoop?
It's a hula hoop. All right, I guess you can get that. Yeah, I guess you get that from the box art. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
He's trying to sell the idea of a hula hoop. right? But he just like draws it. It's just a circle, and he's just showing everyone the picture. He's like, you get it, right? It's for kids, and they're like no one knows what he's talking about. But like that's so
do hula hoops
secondary.
exist in this movie? Like before
No,
this, or did he actually come up with it?
No, I think he invented the hula hoop or
Okay.
whatever, like whatever.
Interesting.
But it becomes that where he like rises through the ranks of this company and like becomes buddy with the CEO. And then like there's this, it kind of towards the end becomes this like thing of like good versus evil kind of thing. Like it's a very bizarre transition into that. But I would highly recommend it, man. It's just like it's so quirky and weird. But it's a really well done. It's a really well done film, man. I'd highly recommend it. Anyone who hasn't seen it, Hudsucker Proxy. It's a good one.
Nice. I have that on my list right with Let the Right One In, so we'll see if I can get to either of those. My amount of time that I've got to watch movies these days has gone down significantly, but if I can get to one of those, I definitely will. You're a good salesman, man. You've talked me back into watching things I've already seen, and now you're selling me on things I have not seen. So
I appreciate it. Yeah.
No, that's great. When I was talking to Will, to cleaning agent, most, if not all, of the movies on his list were directly tied to who he was watching them with at the time that he saw them, right? So like he watched it with his brother or something. And so that's why it kind of stuck. Was there an overarching theme that you can think of to why so many of these movies made an impact for you? Or was it like maybe it's the rewatchability? Like you said a couple of times, like you could put this on right now and enjoy it. Is that a big factor for you in choosing this list? Or
so it's kind of a mix. So some of these fall back to being formative in like my younger years, I guess, like in the 90s or whatever, where I was kind of like, oh, just like kind of blown away. And that's like your Independence Day and your Starship Troopers, where I was, like just kind of like mind blown. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. Like, man, like stuff like that. So that's definitely part of it. A lot of these subvert expectations, not necessarily in the movie itself, but take a genre that I didn't necessarily know that I even liked, and that if you took 99% of the movies in that genre, I probably wouldn't like them. But there was something just that special about this one that made me realize, like, all right, maybe I shouldn't totally write this off. And that's, like your animated stuff, like your Spirited Away. And then I would say for the greatest of all time, for Shawshank, that stands on its own, as if nothing else, like on its own, I think that's probably my favorite movie of all time. But that's also very special to me. One of my best friends when I was in high school for years, my buddy Matt, passed away several years ago. And that was a movie. I think him and I skipped a day in high school, hung out at the house, maybe did some things that we shouldn't do. Watched the Shawshank Redemption, probably ate too much food, and had a great time. And we always refer to it as the Shank. So, after that, for years after that, we're like, oh, we got to get back together and watch the Shank again. Like that kind of, so that holds a special part, a special place in my heart for that. Just kind of memory of watching that with him and us just being mind blown at it. Just like, it's just like such an incredible film.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's kind of a combination of all those things.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing your list with us.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, and that has been the Flicks That Make You Tick with my friend Brian here. You know him as PrpleStiky. Purple, where can people find you?
If you want to see, it's primarily Marvel Strike Force content. We have a good time. If you want to hang out with us live on Twitch, you can do so at twitch.tv/PrpleStiky. Spelling's a little weird on that, but I'm sure you can find me.
We'll put a link down below.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, we're there generally Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's an absolute madhouse. We have a great time though. So if you're looking for Marvel Strike Force action and want to have a good laugh at my expense, I would love to have you. And then you can find me over at YouTube, PrpleStiky on YouTube as well. And we just do a lot of that's just Cosmic Crucible highlights and stuff. So yeah, just having a lot of fun playing MSF, and love to have you guys. If you want to have a good time, hang out and chat with me. I'd love to have you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been great having you on. And thank you all for hanging out with us over here on Mongoli's Movie Show. If you enjoyed this content, please consider hitting the like button. It does help out the channel quite a lot. And hit the subscribe if you want to see more great content like this. You can also leave a comment down below saying what you did like, didn't like. Maybe you agreed with Prplestiky's choices, maybe you didn't. And if you'd like to be on the show, reach out to me on Discord. We'd love to have you. We do movie trivia, we do movie shows like this. Whatever you want to be a part of, reach out, be part of the community. We'd love to talk to you. Have a great day, everybody.